the host of Our Decision podcast, Lou Moore, joins us right here on the path to state and local sovereignty. Lou, good morning.
Good morning, Lowell. How are we doing today?
Great. Thank you. And we are set to discuss things today.
All right. Well, I want to start right off by plugging a campaign that True the Vote has initiated. It's called Steady Watchman. And it's a way for people who say, I don't know what to do. There's problems with the elections. There's all these problems. There's all this unconstitutional activity. What do I do? And it is a very simple step-by-step kind of hand-holding exercise that they've undertaken to help people who don't have a lot of confidence, not sure what to do, to give them just a couple of things to do over a period of time.
I looked at that website last night, and apparently we're on step number 3.
We're just a couple steps. Sorry about that, but I try to keep track of those.
Yeah, so what are the steps that we ought to be taking, or that someone who wants to jump into the water here and help out in the cause of liberty, what can they do?
Well, they've got a app that follows the legislatures all around the country, and they're recommending that you familiarize yourself with that app and then see what's happening in your state or what people are talking about might happen in your state, and contact your legislators to offer an opinion. If it's an election integrity bill or some other bill you feel strongly about, just very directly state your views to them, even if it's not up for consideration yet. Anyway, they explain it in there.
Well, now here in Utah, right, the legislature's not in session. So what can we be talking to our legislators?
Absolutely. Committees are meeting. Legislators are considering things that did or did not pass the last session. And they're usually considering things that we don't like, that the lobbyists are whispering in their ear. And so I didn't get a chance to go on their app. There's other ones as well, but evidently they're pretty thorough about discussing the situation in your state with your state legislature. So we're checking it out at any rate.
Well, and that website is?
Well, it's at TrueTheVote.
TrueTheVote.com. Cool. Excellent. TrueTheVote.com.
Steady Watchman is the name of the program.
Steady Watchman, like Watchman on the Tower. That's us. That's the citizenry.
Absolutely so, sir. It isn't anybody else. So the Chinese communists. Kash Patel revealed last week that Christopher Wray swept under the rug that there was intel. Now, all of this has not been thoroughly vetted, but there was intel that as many as 20,000 fake IDs were created in China and sent to the United States in order for illegal aliens or legal aliens, but not legal voters that are Chinese, to allow them to vote because they have an ID. And so that's a pretty interesting piece of news. And South Dakota Canvassing Group pulled up another story from Reuters, and we linked directly to the Reuters story, talking about all the equipment, all the solar equipment, all this electrical equipment we're getting from China, and they're sticking little hidden elements in it of various types to spy on us, to malfunction at a certain point, this kind of thing. So is it possible, Lowell? Is it possible that any election equipment that comes from China, of which we are using some, and we've talked about Conic on this show, is it possible that we should be looking at that? Of course, the answer is absolutely. We should be looking at that. So those are a couple of interesting stories, kind of focusing on those Chinese communists.
Well, and that caused me some concern as I read those stories last night, Lou, that you posted at securevote.news. These chips that they implant in our solar arrays, for example, are part of our electrical grid, right? And they could at any moment maybe flip a switch or whatever and shut down part of our grid, our electrical system. So that's a real threat.
Totally.
And so I'm glad that hopefully someone's taking a look at that. And you mentioned the voting systems. Probably nobody's taking a look at that. So I'm glad you're bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard implied that through her DNI office with all the various intelligence agencies that they're looking at foreign interference as a general topic. But that would include this. And this has come up before. I mean, we've talked about Conic and their poll chief, their poll book, electronic poll book program that evidently all the data has ended up in China from those poll books.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So it's a thing. It's a problem.
Yeah, and of course, you and I both know the real solution is to return the election process back to our precincts and vote on paper, right? So that nobody can interfere with our elections. That's the real answer, folks.
110%. The Chi-Coms would have a little bit of problem with that. So
Yeah, and so that would be a great topic for you to approach your legislators about this effort to true the vote is leading out on, to be a watchman, right? So if this is something you're passionate about, and I know many of you are, then talk to your legislator right here, wherever you're located, Utah, Wyoming, wherever you're listening from, about getting back to precinct-centered voting on paper ballots so that the Chi-Coms cannot interfere with our elections.
absolutely. So it is sad to report that Mike Lindell lost in a jury trial and was found guilty of defamation of the Dominion Voting Systems former executive, Eric Coomer, that he defamed him, talking about a role that Lindell claimed that Mr. Coomer played in the 2020 election, and specifically a Zoom call, which I've seen that call.
Yeah, I have too.
I don't know if they misidentified Mr. Coomer. I'm a little confused by the reporting in the mainstream media, but also in Gateway Pundit, and we link to Gateway Pundit. But we don't really have all the information about this story. But one thing I know, and this is unfortunate, but we've talked about Alex Haldeman a number of times on this show and his excellent work exposing all of these voting machines and the flaws in all of this technology. And of course, he's one of the 2 stars of Kill Chain, which we link to that documentary as well on securevote.news. However, a lot of people don't know this. Mr. Haldeman is a friend of Mr. Coomer, formerly of Dominion. And Mr. Haldeman testified for Mr. Coomer at this trial and de-emphasized all of his own work and said, yes, all these things are possible. I did a report, and yes, the Dominion machines could have flaws, but that doesn't mean they do. So he kind of spun his own testimony after testifying down in Georgia and doing that dramatic flourish that we reported, where he used a ballpoint pen in court and poked one of these machines and changed a voting tabulation in front of the judge and God and all of humanity.
Yeah.
He's been great on this, but he was not great at this trial.
Wow.
And the other thing I'll mention, and this is controversial, but Mike Lindell has relied very heavily on a computer expert by the name of Dennis Montgomery that some of us do not believe is a good person to be relying on. I'm just going to leave that there right now. I could talk about it more if you wanted to at some point. But so he was a principal witness for Mr. Lindell. And so I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened. There is allegations that another talk show host on Frank's Speech said he was on this call, and then in court, on the air he said he was on the call, but in court he said he was not on the call. So I don't know, but it's a tragedy considering how much money Mike Lindell has put into this cause. And a question has to be asked, whether maybe some people took advantage of him somewhere along the way. I don't know, but...
Well, yeah, and I was confused by that story too, Lou, because it seemed to me that Coomer was claiming that he was not on the Zoom call, and yet there were several witnesses that testified that he was on the Zoom call. And so I don't understand why, Lindell could lose this case. If I was in the jury box, there's no way. And the evidence is clear. The Coomer was on the call, and he said what he said on the call.
And the other problem is when you have a news platform, if you repeat an allegation and you don't offer the other side, or when you find out the allegation's not true, Lindell still insists it is true. Yeah, you don't correct your story. That's a moral issue or whatever, but I don't see this suing the news platform for $50 million as being a legitimate approach to these things. That is just flat out suppression of our First Amendment rights. Right. Now, the awards, the only good news that I could see in the articles I read was that Coomer was asking for like $50 million. He wanted to shut down My Pillow. He wanted to shut down Frank's Speech. He wanted to tag Lindell for millions and millions. And it looks like Frank's speech is tagged for a couple of million, which is not chump change, and Lindell for a few 100,000. But My Pillow, Lindell's company that has hundreds of American employees, was completely let off the hook since they had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
And the jury significantly reduced the damages that Coomer was asking for, but they did find in his favor. So
interesting.
This is unfortunate. As we learn more, we will report it here for sure.
Excellent. Great story. I'm glad you brought that out.
So one more, Washington State, where I hail from. The initiative process in Washington State has always been dominated by conservatives. And we have looked in past years, we looked at the initiative process as the only way for us to keep our constitutional rights and to keep from being taxed out of existence and a number of other things. I know the view of the initiative process is not necessarily the same in other states, and the left wing has taken advantage of it. But anyhow, there is a new initiative that's been proposed to require voter ID before you vote. What a novel idea. And specifically to improve citizenship, which is an issue in that state, as it is in every state in the country. And so we will see what will happen. But the Secretary of State there is kind of rigging the game. It used to be like other states where Proposition 1, Proposition 5. Now it's like Proposition XL 15-43. I mean, this is crazy. So the identifier on the initiative is just terrible. For marketing this initiative. But anyway, Nevada was a somewhat blue state that passed overwhelmingly, 70%. They passed voter ID. It's popular everywhere. So if they can get this on the ballot in Washington, it will be very interesting to see if they pass it there.
Well, I think they will. Obviously, Eastern Washington, all the rural parts,
that's country.
They're getting a path. They're going to approve that initiative by far. Really, the battle will be fought in urban, Portland area, Seattle area, right? That's where the battle.
Totally so. Plenty of good conservatives there too. I testify to that, but a lot of other people.
Well, hopefully the good guys will win out, and they'll have voter ID back in Washington State again.
Absolutely.
Well, Lou Moore, thank you for joining us here on the Path to State and Local Sovereignty with the greatest and latest news, which you folks can find at securevote.news. Lou keeps that website updated, aggregates all the great news from around the country, and has links to the great organizations around the country who are interested in election integrity, such as True the Vote and others. Great. Plus, there's a number of great films and documentaries right there on securevote.news. So thank you, Lou, for joining us, being with us this morning here on the Path to State and Local Sovereignty.
Thank you, Lowell.